You ever feel that almost magnetic pull towards a new phone, a new app, or even just a tiny redesigned button on a website? Well, today we're going to break down the science behind that obsession with the new. It's a crazy powerful force, isn't it? It feels almost primal, this urge to check something out just because it's new. So what's really going on in our heads? Well, here's the thing. This isn't some modern day quirk. Nope. This is a feature that's been baked deep into our DNA for thousands of years. At its absolute core, novelty is a biological survival signal. I mean, think about it. For our ancestors out on the savannah, a new sound, a weird shape on the horizon, that could mean one of two things: dinner or becoming dinner. So ignoring anything new, yeah, that just wasn't an option. Our brains literally evolved to snap to attention at any little change. And that ancient wiring is still running the show today.
All right, so let's dig into how that ancient survival instinct creates the initial spark, that exact moment we get hooked on something new. This is where biology gets tangled up with modern psychology and, of course, marketing.
The second we see something new, our brain's reward system, this thing called the mesolimbic dopamine pathway, just lights up. It sees that new stimulus as a potential big-time reward and gives us a nice little flood of dopamine. This creates what psychologists call an approach motivation. It's that feeling pulling you toward the unknown. I mean, think about pre-ordering a new gadget. Let's be honest, you're not really buying proven utility. You're buying that awesome feeling of anticipation, that sweet, sweet dopamine hit of what's coming. This also triggers a physical reaction called the orienting reflex. When you see something new, you literally automatically pause what you're doing, your senses get sharper, and all your focus zooms in on that new thing. It's why a tiny change in an app, a new button, a different gesture, can cause a huge temporary spike in engagement. We just can't help ourselves. But here's the catch. It's a reflex, not a sign that we're actually satisfied. And that leads to the final piece of the puzzle: curiosity. See, novelty creates this little hole, an information gap, in our mental map of how the world works. And our brains hate that. It feels like an itch we have to scratch, and we get this powerful urge to find information to close that gap. Tech platforms are masters at using this. A mystery box in a game, an algorithm that shows you something totally unexpected. They're all designed to keep you coming back to figure out what's next. So, once that initial spark is lit, we enter the next phase, the peak. This is where companies and creators get to ride this incredible wave of attention. But it's also where the line between something genuinely useful and just a temporary fad starts to get really, really blurry. This quote just nails it. When something new comes out, the metrics, click-through rates, daily users, they can shoot through the roof. It's an engagement sugar high. But the danger is mistaking that spike for true product market fit, when really it's just people reacting to something because it's different. This peak is supercharged by a fascinating psychological quirk, the halo effect of the new. For a little while, we basically turn off our critical judgment. The act of discovering something is so rewarding on its own that we're willing to overlook huge flaws. This example is just stunning. Early adopters of self-driving beta software have been known to forgive bugs that are literally life-threatening, mistakes they would never ever tolerate in a car they'd been driving for years. Their own fascination is paying the bills. And you better believe marketing weaponizes this. The whole goal is to frame a new product not as just a small step forward, but as a massive break from the past. You know the tagline, everything has changed. Just look at ads for electric cars. They sell you on the futuristic novelty, the cool silence, that instant acceleration, to make you forget about the real-world friction of trying to find a working charger. Novelty becomes the bridge to get you to adopt something new. But you know how it goes. What goes up must come down. After that incredible peak comes the inevitable crash, when the magic starts to wear off and that dopamine well runs dry. This is just the classic law of diminishing returns playing out in our brains. The excitement we get from something new decays with every single exposure. As our brain learns and updates its map, that dopamine hit just gets weaker and weaker. Seriously, think about the first time you saw an LLM write a poem. It felt like actual magic, right? But the 50th time, yeah, it's just a tool. It's become mundane. This collective crash is so predictable, it even has its own chart, the famous Gartner hype cycle. We rocket up to the peak of inflated expectations and then plummet right down into the trough of disillusionment. This is the wear-out effect. The magic is gone and we're stuck dealing with reality. We are seeing this happen in real time with generative AI image tools. The initial wow factor is giving way to the tough realities of copyright fights and consistency problems. And honestly, the simplest reason for the crash is something called habituation. It's actually the most basic way we learn. Our brain figures out how to filter out stuff that's repeated and predictable so it can save energy for things that are actually new. For advertisers, this is the enemy. Once we get used to their campaign, it just becomes invisible wallpaper. We don't even see it anymore. And that's why they're in a constant race for creative refresh cycles. Okay, so this whole up and down life cycle presents a really important strategic choice. Is the novelty that you're seeing, or maybe even creating, just a flash-in-the-pan gimmick? Or is it the start of something with real, lasting value? This gets us to a super important distinction. Novelty and quality have two totally different jobs. Novelty is for acquisition. It's what gets people in the door. But quality, that's for retention. It's what makes them want to stay. A viral app that's buggy and crashes all the time will die out as soon as the novelty fades. But a kind of boring app that just works, that's how you build a real business. That gap between novelty and quality is what people call the valley of death for so many new ideas. So the difference is actually pretty simple. A gimmick is just novelty without any real utility. It's all about shock value. Sustainable value is when that novelty actually becomes a useful function. The folding phone is the perfect example, right? Is it just a cool party trick to impress your friends? That's a gimmick. Or does folding it actually give you more screen space to get real work done? That's sustainable value. And this constant chase for novelty can have a really dangerous effect on long-term planning. It makes us totally overvalue the immediate applause we get from a big launch and undervalue the slow, boring, invisible work of just keeping things running. It's why politicians love flashy ribbon-cutting ceremonies for new projects, but nobody ever wants to talk about the maintenance budgets for the roads we already have. Chasing novelty all the time can leave you with a foundation that's just crumbling underneath you. So the next time you feel that pull towards something new, a product, an idea, even a headline, just pause for a second. Are you going to get swept up in the magic, or are you going to see the mechanism at work? Thanks for watching.